are those who want a one-world government empowered to do everything for the people. George Soros funds dozens of not-for-profit organizations to obtain the aims of globalization. Our American freedoms stand in their way. These freedoms are under constant and immediate threat. What if in the United States there was a counter-effort to really fund organizations focused on advancing personal liberties and freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution? We're very lucky to have Jeff Brain working on individual freedom. He's the founder of two major initiatives, CloutHub and fundfreely.com, designed to help the people make sure that they can do for themselves without globalist nanny government babysitters. He's here on America Out Loud Pulse to tell us about both of these initiatives in his efforts to save freedom that so many of us took for granted for most of our lives. I'm your host, Dr. James Lyons Weiler. Let's get it on. So how are you today, Jeff?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, thanks for being here with us. We have a great deal of things to talk about here because as founder of CloutHub and as founder of fundfreely.com, people would not be familiar with it. So I thought that the best thing to do would be to have you tell your story about your inspiration for both of those foundational organizations, and let's go from there. So let's start with CloutHub. What is CloutHub and how can people use it?
Sure. Well, thanks. So I decided to create CloutHub because I felt that existing social media really wasn't meeting the needs of society. In fact, a lot of people, we refer to them as antisocial, right? They were created by Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey when they were young, still in college, and they developed over time. But social media has tremendous power. The question is, what are we bringing people together for? And I think on those platforms, it's not serving society. We can bring people together through social media and give them the tools and resources they need to actually change their lives, change society, and change humanity for good. And that's what I envision with CloutHub. My background, I've been a businessman all my adult life. I was also very active civically. I used to live in Los Angeles. I was a commissioner for the city. And I did some other things in the city, raise money for schools, revitalize portions of the city, bring people together, and so I'm taking that experience and applying it to social media, a social media that, a lot of social media today is considered like the virtual town hall, right? Where, we have that on CloutHub, but really what people want is we refer to as the virtual kitchen table. Because on the virtual town hall, all we do is scroll down a list of posts and go, I like that one. I'll like that one. Oh, that's my friend. I'll like his, but that's not really social interaction. What people really want is to be able to have conversations. I mean, it's almost like what Facebook was 10 years ago when you would share the birthday pictures or the trips and it felt private and you were sharing it with your friends, but that's no longer the case, right? Every third post is an ad. Other people are commenting. You don't even know who's in your timeline anymore. It doesn't feel private, but we're going to bring that back. We're also going to connect people to the things in life that matter most and that shape their lives, such as, we call them life hubs. There'll be a faith hub, a health hub, an education hub, entertainment, sports, civics, business, finance, the things that actually enrich our lives and are necessary for a functioning, healthy society. So that's the second thing, to connect people in a meaningful way to those life hubs and aspects of life. And then the third is what we talked about initially, which is to empower people to reclaim control over their lives, whether that's, and work together, right? To connect, work together, and take action on the issues, whether that's what's happening in your children's school, or what's happening in your community, or what's happening in Washington. We need to use social media to be able to work together and return, essentially, power back to the people.
You seem like a very level-headed man. So we, to create a social media platform like CloutHub that can give people a place where they know that people that are online are there to have a purpose-filled experience, to find each other based on common interests on topics that really matter to their lives. gives people a place to really live by their intention rather than the haphazard, oh, that's really flashy and interesting. That has my attention. I've noticed that there's an economy for attention that is is palpable. The time that everyone seems to be competing for, eyes on screens, is extremely valuable. Here, I would imagine that people using CloutHub can expect to go there with a specific intention to learn about an issue, to participate on issues, and find people that they can learn from or share ideas to. And that's how I approach social media. So it's great. So tell us about the name CloutHub. I know like I said, you're a person that lives from intention. So what's the purpose of CloutHub as a name?
Yeah, well, clout stands for influence, right? And so to give people back the ability to have influence over all the different aspects of their life. And, so that was the intention. And the hub is because I think social media should be a place where people can come and connect and interact. I want to change, we are at a precipice in life and in society, right? We went from Facebook to Instagram, where it's more pictures, faster, and that was, this is unhealthy actually for people, right? And then we went from Instagram to TikTok, which is even, shorter videos. And I mean, so what is it doing to people's minds and our children's minds? It's affecting their attention span. It's affecting their ability to retain information. So you're absolutely right. We have to decide as a society, is that the direction we want to go? Or do we want to go more in the direction of a Substack or, some of the other platforms where people can actually get into real issues? I think in my platform, I think the reason we're so popular is people are tired of the name calling, the rock throwing, and the excuse exchanging. They want to get back to dealing with issues and solving problems. And, that's what we hope to provide. So the substance that you referred to, we're still a platform that's growing and building. We have a lot more to do. But as we move forward, it is to provide people the resources they need. If they're trying to homeschool their children, they can go to the Education Hub and find courses for their children. You could even perhaps attend college classes through our programs that we're going to be building, So that is the future of society. I mean, when you think about it, social media and the internet has transformed commerce. We buy online now through Amazon and such. It transformed relationships. We can find friends we haven't seen for 20 years on Facebook. It's transformed business networking through LinkedIn. We can find business connections, people that can help us in business. But it really hasn't been used to transform how we as a society work together and interact on the issues that shape our future. And that's where I'm focused on, is creating that platform.
Absolutely. And that is so greatly needed and appreciated. I ran 3 conferences, Jeff, at the height of Mark Zuckerberg's censorship of the American people on Facebook. He tried to thread a needle. I give the guy a little bit of credit for showing up and taking some heat, but to the politicization of Facebook and the censorship based on, party lines, that was obvious. And so, people who know me know that I'm a recovering liberal myself, right? So I was a Cuomo Democrat as a kid, the first Cuomo, not the second Cuomo.
The dad, right? The dad.
Mario Cuomo, right?
Absolutely.
The guy that spoke, right? He spoke from the heart, and his concern was the well-being of the people, and he was against party politics, and he bucked that system as it came online. I often thought he would be ashamed of his son, not to make this too political, but I think he would be ashamed of his son even before the sexual harassment allegations and so on. But with CloutHub, this is not just another social media platform. CloutHub exists with a guarantee from you, Jeff, the man on the screen, the man that you're listening to right now on radio, which is you're never going to censor anybody. Is that right?
No, not on issues. Absolutely. We think that you should bring the tough issues to CloutHub. I mean, you've been involved in the issues about COVID and the vaccines. And, people can debate whether you're right or wrong, but you have the right to say and express your opinions. We need that. I often talk about, what would have happened in the 70s and 80s when there were people saying, hey, I think there's a link between cigarette smoke and cancer. Would social media have kicked those people off in favor of big tobacco? Or what if it existed during, the Martin Luther King's, bus boycott? Because we saw them take down groups that were, there's Stand Up Michigan, got the 350,000 people on Facebook. Facebook took them down because they were opposed to the lockdowns, right? And the business closures. Would they have done that to Martin Luther King and his, on the bus boycotts? I mean, I know that sounds absurd, but it's not absurd. It is what we are dealing with today in a very real way. You deal with it in a very real way on a daily basis, and so do so many of your fellow doctors who are simply saying, hey, I think there's an issue here we need to look at, and you should be applauded for it. Instead, you're kicked off of platforms. Your voices are censored, and worse than that, in many cases, they're going after licenses for people simply expressing an opinion or a concern. We should be grateful for those concerns and opinions. But we see it everywhere, right? We see it on all kinds of different issues.
That's an important point. So when I raising my sons in this world, I would really emphasize the importance of history and deep history, because we are the product of the total sum of accumulated experience. Our society right now, our civilization, is not just what is in the headlines and what people are wearing. That's fashion. Fashion comes and fashion goes, but we have foundational institutions, we have foundational documents and foundational precedences and laws and practices and norms. And so when those things change through time, I can't think of a single substantive change where society has changed for the better where there wasn't dissent, right? I can't think of a single one where there wasn't two views, the old view and the new view, right? And so I would dare say that a lot of people are really confused about who you are, Jeff, and they think you're a conservative, and I just think you're an American first. I get the same kind of confusion. People think that I'm, Republican. If I'm anything, I'm independent. That doesn't mean that I'm up for jousting between the parties for my attention or favor. It just means this is who I am. So I love that CloutHub is a place where you can go and freely express your ideas. People have a right to be wrong. They have a right to learn from each other. And a lot of times the censorship is not just, oh my gosh, that's so offensive, how dare you say that, but more, you know what, I'm going to win this argument by not letting people understand what's really happening in the world. And, as a lifelong learner first and an educator second, I have to celebrate that this is online, and I have to celebrate, and I want to find out the best way that I can plug everything that I'm doing into CloutHub. And so I'm going to be learning from you, sir. Now, I first heard about you, however, basically based on your reaction to the Canadian government colluding with GoFundMe to steal the money from the truckers, right?
Yeah.
They worked together to steal the money from the truckers in Canada who were exercising their civil rights to have their voice heard. Why don't you tell us about fundfreely.com and how that all came about?
Sure. And it came about because of CloutHub. So the Canadian truckers, as we all know, how amazing are they? Normally people protest in the middle of summer. They decided to protest in the middle of winter. It was minus 25 in Ottawa, right? And they decided to protest then. So real patriots. But they had a group on Facebook that had gotten quite large, and Facebook decided to take them down. So they contacted CloutHub because we have groups on CloutHub, and many of the group platforms don't have groups. There's only really CloutHub and Facebook. And so if people listening don't like their Facebook group limits, they can come over to CloutHub. We've actually got really better groups on CloutHub. They can have subgroups and they can direct message their members. It's really designed for engagement. But they had gotten kicked off of Facebook, and so they came to CloutHub to set up their group. Through that conversation, we learned that GoFundMe was playing a game with them. They had raised $10 million, and GoFundMe had told them they're only going to give $1 million, and they're going to think about the other $9 million. And we told them, you better start preparing for an alternative, because if they take that money, $10 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you have 50,000 trucks, that's only $200 a truck. And they were using that money or intending to use the money to keep the trucks going so they could have heat, and food, right? Anyway, so GoFundMe did decide not to give the truckers the money under political pressure. And so CloutHub took the lead. We connected them to another company, and we started raising money for them. And we raised about $8.5 million in 5 days for them. And then the Canadian government, if you remember, put it through Emergency Act and prohibited that money from entering Canada. So it didn't actually happen. But through that process, I realized how important it is for people to be able to fund their efforts. And so I did create fundfreely.com, and very proud of it. And it is a place where pro-freedom, pro-American, people can come and raise and not have to worry about the funds getting, taken down. Now, for the time being, we're mostly doing large campaigns because we're not set up yet to be able to take just individuals that come along and say, I need to raise money for this or that. Our first campaign is an important one. Just like I raised money for Canada and the truckers, I'm now involved with a large coalition of groups across America that are supportive of American values and freedom. And it's called Save Freedom in America. And General Flynn is involved, but also others, many of the doctors that you're associated with are getting involved, because we need to protect our freedom in America. We just talked about free speech, but there's, the health freedom, there's parental freedom, what goes on in our children's schools, there's freedom of religion. We saw churches being shut down because of the COVID, Second Amendment. We have to realize, I talk to the people still in Canada, and their country today is a very different country than it was 12 months ago. They feel like they are oppressed. It's almost like as if we are bordering Russia or China now, not the free people of Canada. We look at Australia as well, and we see their freedom taken away. We're very fortunate here. We have a constitution that goes further than either of those countries. But boy, if we don't step up, then we are going to be like those countries. And so we're going to raise $100 million and that money is going to go to groups and organizations that support the values of America. So those out in the audience, if they have a group that is fighting for medical freedom or education or other issues, they'll be able to apply to receive some of that money, because we need those groups functioning at a high level. Many of them, I go to meetings and they're constantly saying, we need money. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come together as a country, all work together. If everybody throws in $10, $20, those that can do more, and we'll suddenly have a force, because quite frankly, the other side is very well funded. You got a George Soros, you got, the Arabella Advisors group that is, working to defund police, working to shut down churches. They're working the other side. And so we have to respond to that. We have to counter that. And I know you got involved, and I thank you for getting involved. You bring a good voice to that effort, and I thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So as I'm visiting on the website, I see election integrity is an issue, medical tyranny, border security, defend yourself, parental freedom, freedom of religion, freedom to work. And you and I have discussed freedom of education and freedom in science. And I thank you for that agenda. So the number of people that you have involved in this, I understand, is launching 6/15, which happens to be today. We've had a very, very large Zoom meeting of what was something like 140 organizations attending, individuals. So the process here, as I understand it, and correct me if I get it wrong, then the people that want to contribute can contribute by donating directly. Right now, you can go to fundfreely.com and you can donate 5, 10, 20. There's options up to 25,000 I see there. But if you also are interested in fundraising for your organization as you go, you've done a kind of a brilliant thing by bringing on an affiliate program. And you can find some information by signing up for that. We'll share the email address for that affiliation program in the show notes. But then there's a board that will be established, and the board will review applications. The applications, I imagine, will be advertised to the public or through word of mouth, exactly how the funding is going to be distributed. So um, I wanted to ask you, Jeff, I mean, what percentage do you think might be considered political contributions?
Zero, actually. We decided that there's plenty of money out there for politics. This is not for politics. This does not go to candidates. This does not go to PACs. This goes to people. This goes to organizations working in your community or at a national level, fighting for parental rights, fighting for, medical freedom, fighting against, people who are losing their jobs for not getting a vaccine or other reasons. It's not going to candidates.
Great, that's good to know. So when you have CloutHub now, right? This kind of thing would be shut down on Twitter. This will be shut down on Facebook and so on. People that want to participate in fundfreely.com, it's powered by CloutHub. Will there be special interfaces with the Fund Freely campaign and so on throughout the CloutHub universe?
Yes, absolutely. And as people get involved, and there's multiple ways they can get involved, certainly I would encourage everybody to go in and donate. We all got to stick together. And, our fathers and grandfathers had to storm beaches. We're asking people to contribute 20 or 100 or, $5, whatever they can. But today it's a battle of the narrative, and we have to be able to respond with the narrative. And that's a battle of money. So they can do that. The other thing, as you mentioned, they can become an affiliate. So those podcasters or people who have a voice or influencers can help us get out the message. And we, just like when they sell, Mike Lindell's pillows, they get a little referral fee. They get a referral fee for helping in this campaign. That way they earn a little bit to help them do what they're doing too, which is a voice for freedom. So that's another way to get involved. And once people get involved, whether it's as affiliate or donor, they'll start to receive some information. We encourage them to join a CloutHub group specifically for this cause, where some really popular, well-respected people will be in those groups talking about freedom. They'll also get some email updates. We have an election coming up. We need people to, make sure that election is honest. And so they might get, information about how to help with that. But really, it's up to us to all work together. And this campaign will be a massive national crowdfunding campaign in the United States that will also help to serve uniting people. The other side wants to divide us. And it's time for us to say, no more division. And, with my platform, it's not a conservative platform or a liberal platform. It's a platform for everyone. There's lots to do on my platform, CloutHub. It's not all politics. We have a UFC fight coming up on July 17th. We had one back in March, where we're exclusive broadcasters of it. There's lots to do on CloutHub, not related to politics. But, it's really important that we start to come back together as a society. Again, we talked earlier about, changing our lives, society, and humanity for good. That's a big step. Let's stop the divisiveness. So I really hope that this campaign starts to unite, the American public that wants to have a good life again and get back to solving problems.
I totally expect that it will, Jeff. Now, I just want to have kind of a general conversation about, where we really are and what people see. When I go to fundfreely.com, or if I go to Save Freedom in America, savefreedominamerica.com, I see the American flag, and I want to tell people what that means to me. It doesn't mean, oh, look, I'm going to be hanging out with a bunch of GOPers that are wrapping themselves in the American flag, because they've done that more, right? Then when a liberal wraps themselves in the American flag, it's almost a protest, right? If you think about the Vietnam veterans that, say, hey, wait a minute, I'm American too. What are you doing? It's almost like it's just a remembering of where we live, where we are, right? Because as the world becomes increasingly globalized, and I don't mean that World Economic Forum specifically in this part of the conversation, we can go there and have a productive conversation there, but it's almost, to me, what I think what you're doing is you're correct. It's neither conservative nor liberal. It's just, hey, wait a minute. There are certain practices and they're tried and true, where everyone, for instance, is protected by the 14th Amendment, not just minorities. That's an important point. I had to write a whole article reminding people that, hey, stop disenfranchising people that happen to be in the majority as a way to equalize what you think is going to be good for the minority through, quote, equity by bringing the majority down in some capacity, however you measure up or down. There's no objective measure for equity. But once you start down that pathway of saying everyone has to be made equal under, truly equal in every capacity, it simply can't be achieved. People have different abilities, people have different interests, people put more time into actually accumulating wealth through work, or just some people are lucky through inheritance. Let's admit it. Let me tell you a story. There's a young African American saxophone player in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay. And he used to get really upset when women would come up to him and say, "Oh, you poor man, the things your family had to go through." And he'd back away and say, "What are you talking about? I'm from the Dominican Republic, and my family owns like almost all the hotel chains there. I haven't suffered a day in my life. So these assumptions that people make, are prejudice. They're absolute prejudice and they're bigotry, especially if you're going to disenfranchise a group of people simply because you assume that they have a leg up or that they've been disadvantaged. And I love people of all walks of life who stand up and say, "Hey, wait a minute, don't make assumptions about me based on how I look. You don't know the first thing about me." So, when I see the American flag there, I just see a remembrance that, what, the agenda that Jeff Brain and colleagues are executing through Say Freedom in America, that was set about 240 years ago. And we already went through battles internally in the United States to fight to make sure that we understood that no, just on skin color, you can't, have fewer or more rights. Women won the suffrage, and men who supported women for equal rights won sort of suffrage. And as a nation country, and we are still in our infancy. People don't understand that. On the scale of history, we are just an infant country. We're just we're babes in the dark, finding our ways. It is through communication, free and open communication, and free exchange of ideas. So, what are your thoughts on those social issues that we see popping up all over the place?
Well, I think that they're, again, using a lot of issues to pit us against each other and create issues that maybe aren't real issues, or at least as extreme as they suggest. I mean, they're using race a great deal, there's books written about that, right? If you want to change a society, you pit them against each other. It's not by accident; it's intentional. And you pit people against each other based on the color of their skin. You pit people against each other based on their economics. You pit people against them, back on their backgrounds. You pit everyone against everyone, and that creates a society in decline. And everything we stand for has to be against that, right? And you're right. This is a great country, and the rest of the world looks at us that way. They depend on us. They cheer for us. I mean, when you see our team comes into the Olympics, historically, there's a broad cheering from other countries, no matter where the Olympics are being held. And that's because of the values that we stand for. It's a universal value to want freedom. There are people who, anyone who's traveled the world knows that there are countries where, freedom doesn't exist, right? But even in those darkest places, they yearn for freedom. They know what freedom stands for. And so, if the light goes out in the United States, it's going to be dark for a long time because there's no other country that's going to come save us. Now, on the flip side, I don't think it's going to go out. I don't think that Americans are going to let that happen. I think it's actually quite a minority that wants to take this country and make it Venezuela or China or other countries. I think the majority of people, we're very kind people. We're very patient people. We see things happen, and that's to some extent a problem, right? The red line keeps moving, and it's death by 1,000 pricks, or pinches. I mean, we just okay. But at some point we have to say enough. That's too far, and where is that, and hopefully that we can resolve it at the ballot box in November. We start to take it back there. And that's the way it has to be. You have to win the races at the local level. You win the local levels, then you move up to the county levels, then you move up to the state levels, then you get back to the federal level and you take back this country. And we need to do that. There's no space in this country for what they are proposing. You see a lot of things happening right now, and people go, why is that happening? And it's intentional. Don't assume it's not intentional. The food plants that are being burned or otherwise, something's up there. We've never seen 25 food plants burn in 3 months, right? There's something happening here. And we just have to wake up to it and go, okay, no, this is not going to be our future. This is not going to be our story. We're going to rewrite the story and turn the story back, because America is a place of great equality, historically. That's why people want to come from other places to America. Great values. We're very generous people. We give to other countries when they're hurt. We give to people in our own country when they're hurt. It's historical. And we defend freedom in places around the world when it needed. Now, we're not a perfect country, but no country is. But we do stand for good values, and we'd be even a better country if more people got involved. And I think what I'm trying to do at CloutHub is to return the balance of power to the people. And I think the more people involved, the better the results will be. And that's my intention. I would like people to be able to participate in meetings virtually through CloutHub, at city council meetings or, county board meetings. I'd like people to be able to reach out and build alliances, and because we have a lot of shared interest, and really, and through that, we can hold our elected officials accountable for their behavior and their choices, more so, and even create greater transparency. So I think the future is good. I guess what I'm trying to say to the people in the audience is be hopeful, but also take action, but be hopeful and be positive, because there's more of us that believe in America, believe in freedom, believe in our values.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, if you want to think about CloutHub, I'm starting to think of it like a little brain trust that's going to start and grow rapidly, specifically where we can share free ideas and set an example for the rest of the world, actually, that it's okay to have social media and democratic practices in the same country. It sounds crazy that I have to say that. It really does. How to get so far afield so fast. They've been working on the agenda for decades, and it's about time that we wake up to it. So, Jeff, thanks for being on the show. It's an honor. I'm really looking forward to working with you and doing significant, important things.
Well, I look forward to working with you. It's been great to get to know you. We've now been talking for a little bit, and I really have enjoyed it. I think you're very wise, and you're also a doer. And I really respect that. So thank you.
Right on. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a well thought out, organized plan to secure the freedom of speech first and nearly every individual freedom imaginable thereafter. You heard about it here on America Out Loud. We're always a step ahead.